prototyping. I think it's really making sure that you're not constrained where perfect is not enemy of the good, if you will. And you're really able to sort of work in these more manageable chunks and actually implement and test, rather than sort of the traditional and older school, very waterfall oriented methodology where, you sort of define all the requirements and hope that you captured everything. And then you kind of go and implement something, once it's built and then test it out and see if it works. And if it doesn't, you have to go all the way back to the drawing board. It's not really necessarily human scale manageable chunks, especially when you're talking about much larger, much more complex things, breaking it up into more manageable chunks. So I don't remember what quote you just said, prototype and purpose, but I think if that's sort of the where you're going with that, I think just really making sure that you're able to do things more at a human scale and really encourage that quick ideation, testing, and then sort of coming back to the drawing board if whatever you had sort of proposed didn't quite take. I think that's been much more effective, and I think that's sort of the way that just design in general is sort of headed.
Learn and build as you go.
Yep, exactly.
So great, thanks for the info on that. You said there was a third category, or you said there's three main things: organizational design, business process, and what was the last one?
And then I'll say, you can sort of clump it into just strategy, which I think is, again, strategy sort of cuts across, but it's really what are your organizational objectives? What's your real mission statement? What is the purpose of your organization? And what sort of elements of a plan that sort of comprise your strategy do you need to put together in order to actually be able to execute against that and really achieve whatever the goals of that program or initiative or organization might be.
And what are some typical benchmarks for success after a program's done when you're working on that?
Again, I think that depends a lot on the program itself, but typically you'll have KPIs, key performance indicators, or some other metric. Whether you're looking at, in FDA's case, for example, if you're looking at the time that it takes from submission to a decision being made for a regulated product, regulated medical product or regulated food product, that to me is sort of, that's a performance metric. If you're talking about looking at, you've just undergone some sort of reorganization and you want to see how the newly defined organization, newly defined processes and people in that organization are performing against certain goals that you've set. You might set metrics that have to do with productivity. You might set metrics that have to do with job satisfaction, and other, you'll sort of have qualitative or quantitative kind of metrics that will help you sort of see what the output is from what you have kind of designed or what you'd set out to achieve.
Gotcha. And it sounds like productivity almost spills over a little bit into the first category of organizational design and the FDA note you just mentioned. I mean, kind of ladders to business process a little bit. Would you say that is strategy just more the high level genesis of everything, and then it kind of ladders down into some of the other categories?
Yeah, I'd say that. So for me, strategy really cuts across anything that you do. It's sort of your roadmap. You put together a strategy as a plan of action or even a policy that is really meant to help you as an organization or even as I'll say as an organization achieve a major aim or goal. Mm-hmm. And that strategy can be focused on people exclusively. It can be focused on process exclusively. It can be focused on finance exclusively. But at the end of the day, strategy is your sort of roadmap that you will come back to make sure that you are going according to the plan. And you may need to change your strategy if, as you go through the process of implementation, you see that, again, going back to sort of